Hey, I'm Papa. Welcome back to Cooking for the Hungry. This is actually going to be the fourth installment of my educational series. We're going to start talking about protein, and today we're going to talk specifically about meat. We'll talk about seafood and some other things later. So we're going to talk about beef, pork, and chicken/fowl. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about some meats. And there's also some misconception about what to buy and what you need to cook. The first thing I'll talk about is beef. Beef is one of those meats that you can cook medium rare if you want. But it, like any other meat, any of the other meats that I'm going to talk about today, you never ever want to eat something rare except beef. And even beef only if it's fresh. And when I say fresh, when you open up a packet of meat and it's got a foul smell to it, or you ain't sure, wash it. Now, obviously you can't do that with ground hamburger, but you can break it open, ground hamburger, and you can smell it, or ground pork. If it's got a foul smell to it, don't use it. Either take it back to the store where you bought it, or throw it away. Like I said, with beef, you can cook it medium rare to rare. Personally, I don't eat it that way anymore. I don't have the teeth to do it. So I always cook my meat down where it's nice and tender. If something's got like a questionable smell, you're not really sure, wash it. I always wash my meat anyway, but wash it. And then if it's still got a bad smell to it, I would not keep it. I would not eat it. Beef, pork, chicken, any kind of fowl, I always wash my meat. Always wash it. But I'll tell you a little clue on how old it is sometimes. If it's got a slick feeling to it, you run your fingers over it and it feels like it's got a real slick feeling to it, almost like running your finger over soap, like a soapy dish or something. It's been in the package for a while, or it's not as fresh as they claim it to be. So like I said, if it's questionable, make sure you always wash it anyway, and then smell it again. I'd set it aside for 5 or 10 minutes and then see if it smells. If it's still got a smell to it that don't smell so good, don't keep it, take it back. I buy a lot of fresh bulk meat. It's much better for me and my wife, I know for sure, and anybody else that I may serve in my family or friends. So I don't serve them things that are questionable. So with beef or any other kind of meat that I use, fowl or pork or beef, I always buy fattier meats. Now, I'm not talking about something that's excessively fatty. Sometimes I get something that way and I cut out a lot of the fat before you even cook it. But you want fat in it. There's a lot of misconceptions, I believe, about lean meat, buying that super lean meat. Because what you typically find out is it don't taste as good. And you can always cook the fat out, but you still get the flavor. And a little bit of fat is good for you. You know, you hear a lot of opinions, doctors talk in certain ways, but a little bit of fat is good for you if you burn it off. If you're sitting around on the couch all day eating bonbons, or you can't help it because you're handicapped, then you have to kind of look at cooking things a different way. But again, you can buy a little bit fat in it and cook it down, cook it out. I do that with several different kinds of meat. But beef, pork, chicken, I buy that stuff in bulk, and I buy it from people who are reputable and people who buy meats that are may not be or may be range free. Range free, a lot of people don't understand what that is. It's, you know, that don't mean they're running around on a 400,000 acre farm doing whatever they want. They keep them in certain fields and they move them back and forth to protect the ground and to protect the cows from getting too much fleas and ticks and things on them. But we don't talk about that right now. They do the same thing with chickens. They'll put them out in pens, or they'll put them on areas where they can watch, you know. So range free doesn't necessarily mean they're running all over the place. They're just able to go out and eat grass or eat bugs and different things that fowl do and pigs do and cows do. Pigs are less likely to be range free. They keep them in closer pens. So, you know, range free is great. I like HMO clear. I like antibiotic clear, and especially major steroids. Sometimes, you know, different things are fed grain. Grain's okay, but not grain all the time. If they get grain all the time, then if that's all they're getting, then that just porks on the fat and it doesn't grow the meat very well. And it makes them, you have to butcher them earlier. And that's what some farmers want, but that's not necessarily good for the animal. And what's not necessarily good for the animal is not necessarily good for us. So your farmers that do it right, they use natural grains, and they do it sparingly, and they get them out and eating grass or eating hay. Chickens, believe it or not, they get a variety of grain and different types of things in their food, and they get mixtures of what we call grit and things, because they have to have grit down in there to grind up the stuff that they eat. So anyway, I like to buy meat like that. I buy it in bulk, and I understand some people can't afford to buy things in bulk. I can't either, really, but I save the money back and I buy it. You know, I might spend $100 to $300 buying some meat at a time. I package it up and we freeze it. And so I know that I have good meat. And I know that most of the meat that we eat is grown locally, not too far from where I live. But getting back to the meats themselves, beef, I cook it down where it's tender, and sometimes that takes, you know, I cook it 2.5 hours sometimes. Some of the tougher meat, but it's got fat in it. It cooks the flavor. It's still got the flavor, and it cooks out some of the fat. So I will take what's left over after I get done cooking the meat. I fish the meat out, and then I either sipped off with a big spoon the fat off of the top and pour it away, and then what's left is the broth, and that's good stuff. You can use that for a lot of different things, gravies and for soups and different things. And then the pork, absolutely do not eat rare under any circumstances. Chicken do not, or fowl in general, do not eat it rare. If it's pink around the bone, pink around the area, unless it's been smoked. If it's been smoked properly, sometimes you'll get a little bit of pink, but that don't mean it isn't cooked. What's important is the inside temperature. Whenever you're cooking stuff like that and you're slow smoking it, you need to know what the temperature of that meat is on the inside. But I'd never eat pork undone. I never eat chicken undone. And again, I like to have some fat in both of those. We don't eat a lot of pork. Once in a while we eat some bacon and ham. I'm not real wild about other different cuts. Sometimes I'll take pork steaks. I'll get 2-inch pork steaks and smoke them. Later on in the summer, I'll smoke some pork steaks and show you what those look like and walk you through that. But again, be careful with the meat. And if any of that meat has got a slick feeling to the outside of it and it's got a smell to it that you're not sure about, wash it, set it aside for 5 or 10 minutes, and smell it again. If it smells, take it back or throw it out, whichever is best. And let's talk about fowl for a minute. First of all, I don't like chicken that don't have skin on it, and I don't like chicken that's not bone in. I prefer to cook whole chickens and use that meat however I wish, whether I'm slicing some into pieces or whether I'm cooking it down to use for dishes. I will sometimes buy boneless chicken thighs, but not skinless, or at least not fatless. You buy chicken in the store, and you buy the boneless, skinless breast and thighs. You're going to find out they don't have hardly any taste to them. And when you buy something different, you cook down a whole chicken and compare that to that boneless, skinless meat that you're buying for a good price, it's not that good for you. And it has some protein, but a lot of it don't have much taste. Taste is important. Protein's super important. And quality is also super important. But I won't buy anything. Most chicken I won't buy unless it's bone in and skin on. You can cook the fat out of it, and the fat helps add the flavor, and you can do the same thing with it. You can sift off the fat afterwards and save the broth. Saving the broth's important. Sometimes I'll have some tomato something left over, and I'll have like some chicken broth left over, some beef broth. I'll mix that and I'll put it in the freezer, and I call it soup starter because it helps me get started on the next dish. Good stuff and all of that, but I would definitely rate that type of cooking over any other types of meat. Now, sometimes you buy cuts of steak and you're grilling them and they got some fat in them. I personally, I cook them that way. They taste great. It adds flavor to the meat. But when I eat it, I will trim off a lot of the fat and just eat the meat. Some people just cut it up and eat it just like it is, and they're eating a load of fat. Not necessarily good for you, but again, if you're working hard and you're burning it off, it's not going to your waste. But it's also, you know, I'm going to talk about something else on top of this. If you're eating regular fiber and moving things through your system faster, that gives less time for that kind of stuff to settle in your system and for you to absorb it all. And so again, I would recommend some fat in all your food, all of your meat, for taste. Cook a lot of it out and eat. It has good flavor. You know, we've been led to believe as a society these days that all fat's bad for you. That is not true. I can't tell you how many people I've known and some of my family members that live well into their 90s and a halfway happy life or a completely happy life. And they ate lard and everything, fried in lard, butter all over everything, a lot of fat and stuff, you know, and they lived a long life. But that's because they worked hard and they sweated out. So that's what I recommend, probably more than anything else, and to make sure that you're moving food through your system good. I'll talk more about fish and seafood the next time. Like I said in one of my videos, I am planning on, in not too far distant future, as we're getting into spring, I am going to take you along on a fishing trip with me, and we're going to catch some fish. Then I am going to fillet those fish while you look, and then we're going to have a fish fry, and I'm going to show you how we fry fish. And I might even give you the hush puppies along with it. So for now, that's a little bit about protein. The only other thing that I would throw in at this point is, and I will talk more about protein, there's other types of protein other than meat and fish and seafood. There's also lots of beans and other kinds of things, and we'll talk about that also. But always make sure that you up your protein, lower your carbs, and eat lots of fruits and vegetables. That's the way to lose weight the best and stay active as possible. I recommend that over anything. I'm not a dietitian, but I have been around for a while, and I've been overweight at some points. But I know how to lose it, and I know how to keep it off. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Next time we'll talk about seafood and fish, and then we'll go into other types of protein. Thanks for tuning in.